K-State with 3 losses. They lost to Tulane early in the year, 17-10. They lost to TCU earlier in the season, 38-28, and they lost to the University of Texas, 34-27. And then obviously TCU is 12-0. The interesting thing, because I know a lot of people point directly back to the TCU Kansas State game that happened previously.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the game when Martinez, their starting quarterback, went down, correct?
Correct. I think they may have been even the second string guy might have got banged up or something too, but I know they were down at least one quarterback.
Well, this is the game where Will Howard came in, and my point is not to let Will Howard or Kansas State off the hook. They lost by 10 points. It is what it is. But this is the football game that a quarterback has to go in and play with zero preparation.
Yeah, right.
And he played TCU to a 10-point ball game. I think that's pretty damn impressive. And as I look at a rematch, that matters to me. Like now the guy's he's got games under his belt, really good games under his belt, and he's obviously going to prepare for TCU this time that they play him. I think that's a factor in this rematch.
My biggest thing has always been it's hard to beat a team twice, and I've said that over and over again. It was why I went into the national championship game last year riding with the Georgia Bulldogs. I just think it's really hard to do it, especially at the college level. In the same season. To me, I think that's a very, very key point that you just made, Clint, and one that everyone should pay a lot of attention to. Because I think even Adrian might be kind of halfway good. Whoever's playing at quarterback, they're going to be prepared and they're going to be ready for it because they have the experience now. And then on the flip side of that, I think this TCU team, although they've won kind of in similar fashions consistently, with the exception of really this Iowa State game where they just blew them out the water, they like to make shit interesting, man. And that's what scares me is it's just I feel like this could be a wrestling match and a kind of a ground and pound type of game. And if they fuck around and let these guys hang around, man, I think K-State's got a shot here. And this is why I love this matchup. And the next one we're going to talk about are really intriguing to me because I think that the ramifications of this for TCU, the ramifications of a loss for TCU are massive. Like, I don't think TCU they drop out. They're done. And that's crazy.
Really?
They're a one-loss football team. I think they're done. Yeah.
So you think it's that cut and dry? You think a one-loss TCU
one-loss TCU's out,
even though they lost in a championship, and you think I'm assuming you think Ohio State's in?
Ohio State or Alabama. The only reason I make this statement is because I think you can. When I say this, I think you'll nod your head a little bit, and I'm not going to take full credit for this. My cohort Joshua Perry brought this up, and I think it's a great point. Hey, bro, it's about the money, dude. You go back and look at the last 5 weeks, the most watched teams, top 2 or 3 has been Alabama or Ohio State for the past 5, 6, 7 weeks. When it comes down to it, viewership for these games is going to be big. It's a business. If TCU fucks around and gives them an excuse to get them up out of there and replace it with somebody who's going to get a ton more money from media eyes on it and buy-in, it's going to happen. That's just the reality of it in my eyes. That's the business of it that people tend to not think about. Do I think it's fair? Absolutely not. But it's going to be a factor. And I think if you say it's not, cool, we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? And that's why I think this is a must win for TCU if they want to make it.
Yeah, look, I love you for saying that because I'm on that wagon all day long, brother. I think it's about the money, and I think that's the brand on the logo on the side of that helmet matters, man. And I think it's taken into account big time. Now, I do think that TCU can afford to lose a ball game and still be in the college football playoffs. I would hope that they would still put TCU in, but I don't disagree with your point at all. Let's before we move on from Kansas State and TCU. By the way, we're going to pick all these ball games at the end of the show, so I don't want to ask Hack who he thinks is going to win the damn thing before we get to it. So hang your ass around and see who we actually think is gonna win this thing. By the way, I'll reset it real quick. We're powered by Bet Rivers. You can find us on the SiriusXM app, and don't forget to check our merch store at fieldof68 .shop. One quick thing before we leave this K-State TCU Big 12 championship game. On the Heisman front, Max Duggan, you think he gets the invite? How you feel about it?
Bro, that dude's been balling, man, 100%. And this year, really, to me, the Heisman hasn't. This is the longest it's taken, I think, for somebody to kind of separate themselves. I think that somebody is Caleb Williams out there at SC. The last 2 games that he's played have kind of had more national eyes on it. He's gonna have another chance this weekend to do it as well. But I think that this has been real wide open, man. And you've had some disappointing performances, however you want to look at them, by CJ Stroud, a couple of the other guys that were front runners. You know, Blake Corum's hurt, may not play in this Big Ten championship game, something we didn't talk about, which is another big factor. You know, so I think some of these favorites kind of dropped off, and it's really turned into whoever wants it. I think this guy, Max Duggan, dude, you look at him, what he's done, how he's led the team. He's got an undefeated TCU Horned Frog, bidding for a chance to play in the for a berth to college football playoffs.
Yeah.
Playing real well. Love his story. Numbers check all the boxes. Moments kind of check all the boxes. He was the guy that was kind of having these Heisman moments, but they weren't Heisman moments yet because they weren't talking about TCU, and I don't think anyone knew TCU would be in this position. So, you know, he's shown it all year, and you know, without a doubt, you better get that guy to New York.
I think he should at least get an invite. We're talking over 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 66% completion. He's rushed for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I tell you, those numbers aren't real gaudy when you start looking at some of these other guys we're going to discuss. But I do think there's something there about nobody had TCU being a college ball playoff, even fringe team, before the season started. That's a university that, I mean, when was the last time when Patterson had them boys in the
Dalton.
Conversation? Was that, what year was that?
It was Andy Dalton.
2016, wasn't it? 2016?
No, dude, shit, that was older. I mean, maybe they had a conversation in 2016, but
2014?
When they run the Rose Bowl with Andy Dalton, man, I mean, dude, that's
well, it was the year they got left out. But anyway, my point is my point is this.
Dang, help us out, man. Shit. throw a damn raft over here, man.
Give me a second.
It was whatever year Ohio State won the national title with Ezekiel Elliott. It was that year because they got in instead of TCU when TCU was running wrecking shop. But anyway, my point is
that was 14.
Yeah, there you go. So my point is this kid took over a program that had no business and isn't a program that's typically in this position. Preseason, they had no business being there. New head coach. And there's clearly an intangible, he is the rock dynamic to him and Max Duggan in terms of kind of who's driving the ship. And he's got TCU in a championship ball game undefeated. I think he at the very least deserves an invite. Now, like you said, it took some of the other guys spitting a bit here down the stretch, but I do think he deserves an invite.